It is March 9th, 2026, 44 p.m. And wow, what happened today was truly astounding. I mean, over the weekend and last week, right, I was saying that I was selling my oil stocks, and I sold about 95% of them, and I left about like 5%, right, in there. And today, oil's just collapsed. And it's not just that, the Canadian dollar like pretty much collapsed. If you were watching gold and you were watching the Canadian dollar, right? So I think what happened was the US dollar versus gold was about -1. So it didn't move that much in terms of negative, like in terms of US dollars, right? It was like -1, it was +1, somewhere around there. Or, you know, it went up as high as 7, right? $7. So it didn't really go down or up that much. But the Canadian dollar got crushed. Like, when it was -1, gold was up $40 in Canadian dollars. So that's how much, you know, if you were in Canadian dollars, you were losing that much. And oils, most of the oil stocks just dropped by 50% overnight. It was crazy. That's because the Saudi Arabia, you know, they're playing, I don't know, they're playing with Russia, right? Russia walked away from the deal with the OPEC deal last week. And Saudi Arabia is basically threatening to turn on their, you know, oil again. And literally everything collapsed. I spent 2 hours, moments before making this video, watching Jason Kennedy on what's happening in Alberta. And I do want to like say I feel really bad for those that are in Alberta, because I think the layoffs are coming and we're not there yet. And I think it's going to get far worse from here on out. You know, it's just unfortunate. I didn't really kind of, you know, I didn't really feel it back then because I was younger, right? But being fired or laid off or kind of losing your job because of, you know, the market, or I guess what's happening, is really bad, because people need to pay their mortgages. Jason Kennedy had like all these plans thought out, and I was listening to some reporter, and I don't really know this guy, or I you know, they didn't really tell you who it was, right? But the guy was a complete tool. I mean, literally, you know, the premier of Alberta is trying to say, you know, we will do whatever we can to pretty much make sure the people that they still have their jobs, they can pay their mortgages, if that means going to Ottawa, doing this and doing that, right? And then the reporter, well, I'm not even sure if I could call him a reporter, you know, the dude was asking, so, you know, when you say do whatever we can, you had a budget set out, right, to kind of pay off the deficit and stuff. Does that mean that is going to be thrown out of the window? And then he answered him, right? Literally, he gave him an answer. I mean, this is very... You know, that's something I would do too. I mean, if you're pretty much, let's say this, you have a job and, you know, your wife is dying, and then your boss is like telling you, hey, you know, you care about your wife or you care about your job, and you're pretty much like, you know what, I don't care about my job, right? So that's somewhere like the situation, and that guy is pretty much keep on pushing it. He's like, so that, you know, you didn't really answer my question. Does that mean you're gonna like, I guess, not care about the deficit and things like that? I'm like, dude, this guy is he's like a hack, right? But anyways, that's what reporters are like. So anyways, I was just online, I guess, over the weekend. Somebody was talking about this oil stock, right? And I still have about 100 shares in that oil stock. I sold a lot of it already. I was pretty much last week during the bump, I was like, I'm done. I'm not sticking along, right? But I left about 100 shares in that stock, and you know, today it dropped by 50%. But before the drop, you know, me and this guy was arguing online, saying that, hey, I was saying, why would you want to be in a sector that is gonna drop? I think I get that he might be like from Alberta, because he was like talking about investing in Alberta, right? And I do get it, but you know, I try to help out my fellow Canadians as well, being in the energy stocks. But, you know, I don't want other people to lose money. I mean, if I lose money, sure, I make that decision to lose money. But I don't want other people to lose money. So I was saying that the stock is going to drop like 50%, like, you know, who knows when, right? When the recession hits. And he was like talking about any good company can survive it and stuff like that. And then no later, 24 or 20, you know, somewhere around a day later after, today, that stock got cut in half. Literally got cut in half. Once I woke up, it was already in half. I'm like, but the gold stocks, they've been holding up very well. Gold has been holding up very well as well. If you're in gold, obviously the Canadian dollar had dropped like a hammer, because Canadian dollar and the oil is really, even though we don't care about oil that much, it's about the environment and things like that, but we've been known as like pretty much the oil is tied to Canadian dollar. So when oil dropped, Canadian dollar dropped. Even though the metals, it didn't really go up or down that much, but the mining stocks, wow. I'm not sure if it wasn't crushed as bad as the oil stocks, right? But it did go down, and I was happy it went down, because when it went down, I bought some more in. So by the end of the day, it ended up being higher than the lows that I bought them in, because I think the mining stocks, especially the gold mining stock, they've been holding up very well. And disclaimer, I do have this stock, Metalla. I wanted to get that stock when it was $1. And I was just like, I was looking at Peter Schiff's fund, right? And it was the only stock that was under $5 back then. And then I was too skeptical. And then all of a sudden it flew up to about $8, right? Over like, I don't know, a month. So it dropped back down to like $5. So I got back in last week during that Friday when there was a huge drop. Today, it dropped down to like $6.25, and I was trying to get in from there, but I was asleep, so by the time I woke up, it was up like about to like 6:30, and then at the end of the day, it went up to like $7, near $7. So a lot of the mining stocks is holding up very well. I mean, it didn't drop that much, and I'm planning to trade the thing now, but I'm not afraid about the gold stock. One of my friends had messaged me today because he sees what's happening, or she sees what's happening, and she keeps on asking me about gold. I'm like, if you don't have any, you should get some, right? Because the Canadian dollar is dropping. Obviously, if you're in Canada, right, the US dollar versus gold didn't really go up or down that much. I don't know what is going to happen, but it has been a crazy ride. All I know is that I think this is a great time to get some of the gold stocks. And of course, if you don't have any gold, I think you should probably get it. Jeff Gundlach, a lot of people, Ray Dalio has been talking about it. Even Jim Rogers had been very, thinking about, he's been waiting for a drop for like 8 years. And I've been following from him for over 8 years. He finally came out and said, he's buying a little. But will it go down from here? You see, some of the arguments I have online is that everybody thinks that gold is just going to go straight up. But maybe it will. I don't know. But I don't want to, I want to have some dry powder, right? So even though right now I'm nibbling away at it, I'm kind of buying into the mining stocks because I think gold is going to go up too. And obviously if gold goes up, the mining stocks will go up. So, I'm kind of nibbling away at it. And right now, you see, none of the mainstream media is talking about gold. They're just pushing, how oil dropped and how the market is dropping. Almost no one. I mean, you see Jim Cramer come out with a remix video talking about having gold in your portfolio, but that's pretty much a one-off, right? That's like one video. All the other commentator just refrain from talking about gold. It's literally crazy. I'm like, dude, that is the only market that is not getting slaughtered right now, and you have nothing to say about it? Like, am I the only one? Well, I'm not the only one, but, there's a lot of people, right? And Bitcoin, oh, boy. Talk about Bitcoin, I don't know if I put out that video about Bitcoin. You see, I said that, when Bitcoin was at $100, I could lose $100, right? But now that it's at 12,000 Canadian, right? I was like, no, the thing is, if it goes down, it goes down by like thousands, right? So anyways, yesterday, and that's 12,000 Canadian. So, it was at 12,000 Canadian and it dropped down to like 10,000 overnight. I was like, shit. So gold didn't go up or down that much in terms of US dollar, but gold went up in terms of Canadian. It didn't really go up. It was the Canadian dollar that was getting crushed. And, CBC, right? I think a few months ago, they were like, the Canadian dollar is at a turning point and that it's going to do very well, right? Luckily, I didn't convert all my USD into Canadian dollars, but you kind of follow these news outlets and you're like, these guys, I don't know if they know what they're talking about, because I see gold right now as a bull run, right? And obviously this might go on for many years. Is there going to be a pullback? Obviously, nothing goes up in a straight line, right? And gold, I think personally, this is my personal opinion, I think gold can easily go down $200 to $300 during a recession. And what I mean by that is, once we are in a full-fledged recession, when everybody is getting, we're at the beginning of it right now. Think about it. If that's why, I don't know, I didn't sell my gold stocks, but I'm adding to my position, but I also don't want to wait for it, right? Or kind of guess and say, oh, it will go down. But it might not go down. So I want to be in there as well. So that's why I'm hanging on. But it's holding up very well, so I'm not really that worried. Anyway, so, in 2008, when it was actually, we're in a full-fledged recession, right? When people were like, oh, very depressed, and you're walking on the street, and everybody knows. We're talking about everybody. Even your grandma knows. And, right now, not everybody knows. If you're in the financial market, you will know. If you go talk to your neighbors or somebody, they're just like, oh, it's a blip or something. When they start getting fired, I put out a video on how to tell it's a recession, right? When they start getting fired, that's when you know we're in a full-fledged recession. And then that will drop. I think gold will drop. Obviously, it will have probably a V-shaped recovery again, but just like 2008. But I think gold will drop. Right? And that's for many reasons, because when we are in a recession, which we are not in right now, companies, not just in the US, but companies in other countries, right, that were hoarding gold, or small business owners that are hoarding gold, they will sell their gold or assets like houses. And we have a lot of Asian people buying houses, right? I think the real estate market is going to collapse, not like the Canadian real estate market. I don't really know about the U.S., but at least I know Toronto. So I know Toronto's real estate market is probably going to collapse, and people are probably going to go bankrupt. A lot of my friends around their 30s cannot afford their mortgage. And when they start getting fired, combined with the coronavirus, when nobody wants to go see your house because you're Asian, one thing. Second thing, they're worried. You don't even have to be Asian nowadays to have the coronavirus. So, they're afraid to go out to look at houses. That's just it. And I think the market is going to start to collapse. Those especially that cannot pay their mortgage. I have a mortgage. My mortgage is a couple $100 a month, which is, I feel it's fine. So anyways, those people that cannot pay their mortgage, I think a lot of bad things is going to happen. And, you got to prepare. I think that is one of the most important things. You have to prepare today. You're not getting prepared tomorrow. You're not getting prepared whatever. And of course, you might need to prepare for the coronavirus too, just in case. It's not because I think you're going to get the coronavirus. I think that because everybody else is preparing, there will be shortages. I mean, I got a lot of toilet paper just because I need toilet paper, right? So I bought a lot of toilet paper. I got a lot of canned food and stuff like that. I could easily last a few months, literally a few months to a year on it. If I gotten... what do you call those? Those meal replacements, right? So you put some milk in or some water and you blend it together, and then that's your meal for a day. I need to lose some weight anyways. So I don't know. I'm pretty set up for this. So, you got to prepare for yourself, right? Especially if you have a family. I know my neighbors are sitting there. They're busy with the coronavirus. They're busy complaining about the coronavirus and the Chinese and the country and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, you should not be wasting your time complaining about whatever. You should be spending your time preparing yourself, right? Because they have a job. Literally, they can get fired right now, and then how are they going to pay the mortgage, right? You know what I mean? Business is going to slow. Right now, it's not happening yet. But trust me, I think when we get into April or May, that's when the real numbers are coming in. Right now, the numbers are from February and January, and they don't factor in the coronavirus scare, right? And, that's one thing. That's the coronavirus scare. That's one thing, right? But once we head towards the summer, it's going to factor in two things: the coronavirus and the economic slowdown, right? So that's when things are going to start hitting the fan. And if you don't prepare now, I should have prepared earlier, but I didn't. I don't know. So I'm making up for it. So, you still have a short time window to prepare. Have some gold. I think that is very good for your portfolio, as long as you're in Canada. The thing is with Canada is because I think the Canadian dollar is going to get crushed more. Literally, the BOC, which I mean, the Bank of Canada, is going to come out with another rate cut. I don't know by what, but probably, because the energy sector literally collapsed overnight. And it's very, very bad right now. I think preparing yourself is the number one thing. You're not going to talk about, hoarding gold or something. Preparing yourself for being able to pay your mortgage, being able to support your family. Yeah, I mean, if it's bad, especially the energy sector, people that were in the energy sector, literally really bad, right? Will it go back? I think so, but not in the short term. It probably won't go back in a year or 2 years, but, I think it will go back. It might go back, in a few years. Not right now. That's all I know, because back then, what I remember was my dad was very, I was saying that, hey, yeah, he works for Magna International, right? So they make car parts, if you don't know that company. And their share dropped to $4. And, everybody was panicking. But then we were in the middle of a recession. Everybody knew we were in a recession. So that's what I was saying for one of my stocks, arguing with the guy online. Right now it's at about $7. So, I think that will cut in half. And once it drops, to pretty much a bottom, right, it will go back up sooner or later as they deal with what's going to happen. Obviously, the banks are going to probably have to print money. They're going to have to do QE, and the value of your money is going to go down. And obviously that's bad for everybody, right? So not very good, but you want to be in sectors that will probably profit from that. And I think gold will profit from that a lot. I think oil, really far off, long term, it will probably go back up. And I will get in on some of the oil stocks again, depending on which one, the company. Because once they start printing money, oil and all commodities go up. Right? That's just how it is. Even Jim Rogers, he's really bullish on gold. Even Peter Schiff. They have many years of experience, and Jim Rogers has always said that oil will have a complicated bottom, and when they start printing money and reacting, that will be when it's off to the races. So I think one day, not right now. We are not in a known recession. That's what I'm going to call it. We are in a phase of predicting there is going to be a recession. A known recession is when you actually know you're in a recession, and the governments, they tell you we're in a recession. The newspaper, they tell you we're in a recession. And actually, Jason Kennedy actually said the pending global financial crisis, or the pending global recession. So, at least people in Alberta are honest. But right now, in the other sectors, nobody has been saying anything. Everybody's just confused. When we actually get into the thing, that's when it's going to get bad. And I do not want to be in risky sectors, especially Bitcoin or oil, even though, I feel really bad for my fellow Canadians in Alberta. Obviously, I've been a big supporter, but right now, there are things in this world, forces in this world. Unfortunately, it has gone beyond control. And that collapse, obviously, just going back to Russia, I think they came out and literally said we could deal with $25 oil for the next 10 years. So, what happened was obviously very, very bad, and I don't mind being in there in the market to support my fellow Canadians, but it's just, I don't think it's going to get any better. I think from here on out, it's going to get worse. And I've always been saying there's going to be a pending recession. I think we will get to know more once we get into summer. And you want to be in safe haven assets. Obviously, that means gold, silver. Rhodium is on a crazy tear. Obviously, if you know how to play the rhodium sector, what is happening with rhodium is every sector has been going down right? I mean, every commodity has been going down except rhodium. Rhodium has been going up. And I'm not talking about like $1 or $2. It's going up by like $300 or to $1,000. It's literally crazy. It's like the new Bitcoin, if you know what I mean, right? Bitcoin used to go up like thousands of dollars and down thousands of dollars, right? But rhodium has been going up thousands of dollars, right? Like it's the new Bitcoin. It's not even like Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? But Bitcoin just went down like $2,000. So I don't know. I mean, prepare yourself. I think that's very, very important. Make sure your debt level you can manage. I can manage my debt level and I'm completely fine with it. But a lot of people cannot manage their debt level, and they're, it is not a time to be leveraged. I don't believe it. I mean, unless you know what you're doing. But a lot of people with like $5,000 mortgages, that will come to an end. I mean, mortgage rates, interest rates will all go down, right? Mortgage rate, interest rate, yada, yada. They will like hit zero, basically. I don't think it's going to hit negative, but it will hit zero before they start doing QE. And it's going to get very, very bad. I don't know what's going to happen with the banks either, because the bank stock's been going down like $5 per day. And I think at one point I saw $10. And, you don't see that happen. Bank is like one of those things like that never goes down, right? But it has been going down these days. And I'm thinking that it will probably get worse, because I do not think we are in a full-fledged recession right now. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about a recession. When they talk about recession, right, you'll hear them on the news, especially CNBC and other news. We're in a recession. What should we do? We're in a recession. What should we buy? Right now it's like, will this cause a recession? Like, will it cause a recession, right? And then a lot of people are telling you no, right, that are in the news. But if you watch Peter's Shift, yeah, we're in a recession. We've been in a recession for the last 10 years. Anyways, we're not in what I call as a known recession. We're at a phase where we're pending like as a recession known to the media. Once we get into the full-fledged recession, when we know it, I think that's when it's going to get worse. And hopefully everybody, if you watch this video, you prepare yourself. I mean, I just don't mean get gold stocks or whatnot. Gold is to ensure you are able to save capital. Gold stock is to ensure you can, get rich. And I'm in that. I do not preserve my capital because most of my money is used to pay my mortgage, because that's my number one, right? And then I want to, get rich. So I buy gold stocks, right? But if you need to save capital, obviously that's what gold is for. But before you save capital and before you buy gold stocks, you got to have a house, one thing, right? So you got to have a place for your family. That's literally like a no-brainer. So you need some place for your family to live. And then you need to make sure they have food on the table. So that's number one. That's like the number one thing. And you want to make sure that is fulfilled before you start saving your money or investing in gold stock and stuff like that. Because if you can't handle number one, and you're pretty much just, I don't know, I mean, letting them suffer, it's pretty bad. But anyways, if you don't have any gold, you should probably get some silver. That's what I'm getting. Silver stocks, I mean, for me, right? But what I recommend to people is just be prepared. I think food prices is going to go up because inflation is going to go up, right? So food prices are going to go up. And you want your toilet paper and your food now before the prices go up. So anyways, that's all for this video. I think I touched upon a lot of things in my thoughts. I feel, again, really bad for my fellow Canadians in Alberta. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Alberta has been a great sector after the crisis in 2008. The reason why the Canadian dollar was on par with the US dollar is because of Alberta. Because, oil prices were high. So gold was high. So the two things were pushing up the Canadian dollar, right? So that's why the Canadian dollar was one-on-one with the US dollar. But now we're in a bigger crisis, and how we're going to come out of it, I really don't know. I think this is going to be a whole lot worse than 2008. And, you just got to prepare yourself. I am not panicking. I am not telling you to panic. But I think if you haven't thought about it, like some of my neighbors, you should start thinking about it. Because This is your family we're talking about, right? I mean, if you have children, if you have a wife, if you have, family members, you don't want them to go hungry. You don't want them to be homeless. And you don't want them to be living on the streets and stuff like that. So it's very important you prepare yourself in all aspects, including maybe some investments, stocking up on stuff for the virus, and potentially, yeah, I forgot to say health, in case that, the coronavirus does impact Canada a lot. So, I think it's time to prepare, not to panic, but just be prepared to, weather this storm. And I think it's a very, very bad storm. It's going to be something we've never seen before. If you're wanting to get rich, maybe it's time to get into some of the, stocks. I don't know which sector you want, but I like the mining sector. For me, I feel the mining sector has been very safe throughout this entire drop. Like, no disclaimer, I don't have this stock, but like Barrick, it sold off today, but it's still higher than the sold price I sold in December. So, a lot of these stocks have been holding up very well. And I got a message from Bell. Anyways, so I think some of these stocks have been holding up very well, and you just gotta be protecting yourself right now. I think it's a very dangerous point in time. I think it's gonna get more dangerous. Make sure, just make sure you prepare yourself. Just not like brush it off and say everything's gonna be fine. Everything's not gonna be fine. I don't think it's gonna be fine. My dad was almost fired back then, and it was causing a lot of emotional pain because, when you get fired, nobody's happy and they start yelling at each other and stuff like that. My dad is very poor, right? And my mom's very poor. So my entire family was very poor. And I know how it feels to be poor. So I'm thinking that's why you need to prepare yourself. This is not like the time to go, the interest rate just dropped. I'm going to go borrow $1 million to go buy a house that is on the cusp of falling over. I mean, literally, right? So anyways, that's all for now. Today, I will make update videos again. I do feel really bad for my fellow Canadians in Alberta. Hopefully you guys, can figure things out. And hopefully,